Hi, welcome to Coffee with Carrie. Here's your host, Carrie Lazat.
Hi, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to Coffee with Carrie. I am your Director of Cable and Community Relations, Carrie Lazat. And we may have noticed that I'm in a new space. I'm away from my desk and now in our new podcast studio that is still work in progress, but we wanted to kick off our first show in the new studio. And there's actually another show being produced right over there in our bigger studio right now. If you're interested in producing a show like this podcast or in a big studio, we've got the email address right there on our screen where you can get in touch. And if you're watching the recording of this, not watching live, the best way to see this show and trustee meetings and other locally produced content is to search for our YouTube page, which is Bloomfield Community Television on YouTube, and click subscribe. This show is really me talking to people who help keep the township running and making it a wonderful place to live and work. And today I am so delighted to welcome our fire chief, Chief John LeRoy. Welcome, Chief.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. And we have 5 people watching. And I should mention that if they want to say good morning, we have someone saying hello. Good morning, Crystal. Thanks for watching. So if people, and I put this on the broadcasted on the fire page as well. So there may be some people that want to say hello or ask a specific question of our fire chief. So who is celebrating 22 years with the fire department. We started in 2001. And John, can you talk a little bit about what brought you to the township initially? How did you find this job here and your progression through the department?
About 22 years ago, I was freshly out of Lake Superior State and graduated. And at that time, trying to find a fire department. I was only a basic EMT at the time, so there's limited options there. And the testing was very challenging at the time. There was, 200 people testing for, 2 spots. So it was a very challenging process, and I landed here in Bloomfield Township.
And was there something about the township that made you stay? I guess you could have gone to other places. So, and where did you go from that position?
Well, I hired in as a firefighter, and at that time it was very challenging. There wasn't a lot of open fire positions anywhere. And then over time, this place is like a family, and you get to know everybody. It's your second family. We spend the whole year to year together, and a third of our time we're away from our families and living with the other firefighters. So we are truly like a family. So I started as a firefighter, as a basic EMT, and I eventually passed my medic test. And then I worked my way up through line lieutenant, which is a station officer. And then I was transitioned to days about 7 years ago, and at a staff position, which was called operations officer at the time, and then became assistant chief and then chief.
So what was it about the fireman lifestyle that appealed to you? Why did you work career?
Well, I'm a second generation firefighter. My dad was a fire chief in Oxford, and ironically also a police chief before that. But just being around it, you see the teamwork aspect. Played high school sports and the sports aspect, and you want to be part of a team. And truly in the fire service, everything we do is a team. We don't do anything on our own as individuals. We work as groups in everything that we do.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot, when I think about your crew, I feel like, the production crews that I've been on, you go into that because you don't really want to sit behind a desk all the time, and you're, up and moving around, and like everybody in production, we're all working towards creating something. And I think that in the fire department, the police department, everybody has their role, but everybody is working together. So I think that's, a big aspect of the job.
Like you just said, like on your production side, it's like every day is a different day. No matter that, we don't have the same day in the fire department. Every call's different, every situation's different. So sitting behind a desk is not normal for me until about 7 years ago. But every day was different, and that was the fun part. Never knew what was gonna happen.
So for someone that doesn't know anything about fire departments and in our area, can you talk about a little bit about how Bloomfield Township is set up compared to maybe Beverly Hills or Binghamton or Franklin or Detroit? Like, where are we as far as on the size of the fire department? How many stations are there? How many people?
Yes. We are a full-time 24/7, 365 operation. We have 61 personnel. It's basically breaks down to, correct my math if I'm wrong, but 18 firefighters, paramedics per shift. We have 3 shifts. And then we have several staff positions here consisting of an EMS coordinator, an assistant chief, myself, and then the fire and life safety division, which is the fire marshal and 2 fire inspectors.
And what are the fire inspectors? What are they responsible for?
The fire inspectors fall under the fire marshal, and their job is to provide commercial fire inspections on an annual basis. They go to all the commercial businesses in the township and enforce the fire code. And then they also, on any structure fire, are in charge or involved in the investigation process to try to figure out what was the cause of the fire. We have 4 stations here in Bloomfield Township, and one of them is on Westview. So that's Station 2. That's Westview runs between Adams and Squirrel on the east side of the township. We have Station 4, which is on Franklin Road, just north of Square Lake. We have Station 3, which is basically Maple and Telegraph. And then we have Central Fire, which is here on the township campus, right across from Andover High School or Bloomfield Hills High School.
So, what is the relationship like with other departments in Oakland County when there's a big incident that happens? Want to describe one of those?
It basically falls down into 2 different mutual aid type of scenarios. We have a mutual aid organization that we are part of with now 11 other fire departments. They are all full-time paramedic-based fire departments that provide the same level of services to all of our residents, whether it's a fire, a medical, any time that your resources are overwhelmed, we can have radio makes a call, and we have any of those departments coming to us in a matter of minutes to help out. And that's called Oakway. And then the secondary one is through the state of Michigan, which is called MABUS, which is the Mutual Aid Box Alarm Association, which is any other fire department calls for help. We come if we have the ability. The fire service is really unique. We don't say no. We would rather come to an emergency and try to solve their problem that day, and we'll figure out afterwards anything that if we didn't have a mutual aid agreement, or because we truly want everybody to be safe, and from that means the residents, the other firefighters, and everything. So we help out however we can.
So, Bloomfield Township being primarily residential, I'm guessing most of your calls are to people's homes. Is that accurate? Or is it because of the telegraph and the traffic? Like, what is the primary response you have?
The primary response is mainly medical based in residences. We do run commercial businesses during the day. It's a little bit bigger or a little bit busier. But another big feeder to that is the traffic, all the high volume with I-75, Woodward, Telegraph, Square Lake. We do run a lot of traffic accidents related to those thoroughfares.
And that's something that's increased since people come back to work.
Yes, we've seen a drastic increase in the number of car accidents, and really since COVID is a big driver of that. People are more impatient. I sit at every red light you sit at. It seems like somebody goes through a red light. And it happens quite frequently here in the township where distracted driving and or impatient driving results in an accident.
I think we were in one of our meetings and you were talking about, like, if there's an accident or just a rear end collision, you'll get 30 calls to the dispatch. Is that right? Or
I believe the police chief said something like that because everybody has a cell phone and everybody thinks that nobody else has reported it. So they call 911 to let them know.
Right. Well, that's good, right? We still want people to check in with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any advice for residents at this point? And it's also winter, so is there any special special fire hazards that happen in the wintertime that people think about that maybe they're not thinking about other times of the year?
What we do find in the wintertime, a key thing in the wintertime is everybody uses their fireplaces. And one of the safety things that we need to think about is what do we do with those fireplace ashes? We've had several fires here in the township in recent memory that were a direct result of people emptying their chimneys and their ashes into an inappropriate container like a cardboard box or something that's flammable and then setting it in the garage. And what they don't realize is just because they can't see an ember or they can't see any heat, they're still hot for up to a day or two later. You could potentially cause a fire. So they take and put them in the garage, and then several hours later they'll have a working garage fire as a result of it. So they recommend putting those things in a metal can and store them outside of your garage and not in the house or in the property. Outside is best.
So I'm just thinking about my fireplace at home, and I don't know if you don't empty the ashes very often. So is that a better approach? Is just to kind of let them sit there for a while, and then after they cool down? But I mean, how often should we be, getting rid of our ashes?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think everybody's fireplace and situation is different. Some are bigger, some are smaller. They may have to empty it after every burn. Some can go several days. The best thing to do is, if you can, leave them for a while. If you can't, have a proper container to dispose of them in.
What about those electric ones? They only need to get plugged into the wall. Is that right? They shouldn't be plugged into a strip?
Correct. We need to limit the amount of electrics, the strips that we use, and not overload them. And the big thing is not put items that draw a lot of electricity into an electric strip as well. Those are made very cheaply with thinner wire on the inside of them. Most people don't recognize that, but they do tend to, they heat up and they melt very easily. So if you have a high drawing item like a fireplace or a furnace or a small space heater type or anything that draws a lot of electricity, it's best to plug them directly into the wall.
So I think that we talked about your fire marshals a little bit. Are they the ones that go into the schools and talk to the kids about fire safety, how to get out of the house?
Yes, we do a two-pronged approach. Every October is Fire Prevention Week, and all of the fire stations, the classrooms schedule fire truck visits and things of that nature for a fire safety talk. We also have an enhanced program, which is starting next week, that the Fire Marshals Division handles, which is instructing all of the second graders in the Bloomfield Township or Bloomfield Hills School District. They get one-on-one classes. It's like a safety. Each week they address a different issue with safety. They do they get the smoke trailer out there. They do crawl and get low to get out of the buildings. What smoke detectors sound like, and all the different aspects of safety from cooking and things like that. And they do a pre-test and a post-test to see what they've learned, and then they come back the next year and see if they've retained it.
Well, I was in second grade a long time ago, and I have to say that I think that we did, the stop, drop, and roll. I think that was like something that starts at that age, and because of when the officers come in and they're in uniform and they're talking about fire, it's just like it's so exciting, and I think those memories of that kind of basic training really stick with you. So I'm sure it's fun for the officers.
And it has shown its benefits over the years. We have seen a reduction of the number of fires in the township up until the last couple of years. And we truly attribute that to the last couple of years. More people are home since the pandemic. We've seen more cooking fires. We've seen more of the fireplace ashes type fires, and more construction or remodeling where people don't dispose of their painting products or their staining products properly, that have led to an uptick in the number of house fires that we've had.
Well, we have a really nice comment that I think we put up, and this is from Crystal Sanford Brown. As a township resident, I'm extremely grateful to the patience of the fire department. I had a hardwired smoke detector in my home. I learned that the manufacturer only give a 10-year warranty on such projects. On a quiet evening, I was home alone. The alarm went off. Thanks to the Bloomfield Township Fire Department, the issue was resolved. Thank you for that comment, Crystal.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad we were able to fix the problem there. And she did hit she had a very good point in there. The recommended smoke detectors are 10 years. Most people don't know when their smoke detectors were installed or how long they've been there. But one of the key things to look at that we kind of teach the residents and try to help them is, if it's yellow, it's time to replace it. The plastic that starts out white over time, as it's exposed to the UV light, will start turning a yellow color on your ceiling. Once they turn yellow, it's time to replace them. And the manufacturers have gotten pretty smart with this, because now if you go to any of the big box stores, they're actually selling smoke detectors with a lithium battery in it that only last 10 years. And then the last 10 years, they're designed to shut off at 10 years and be replaced.
Well, that helps everybody out. So, can you tell me why is it when it starts to, it's usually like at 2 o'clock in the morning, that little chirp.
It's a lot of times, or it's at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not busy and now you can hear it, but it may have been doing it before that point.
Oh, right. Okay, you're right. So I know we have a lot of special equipment in the township, and some of that we pay for, the residents pay for through taxes. Some of it comes from grants. And right now, we are building a new fire truck. So talk to me, let us know, what is this new fire truck and how is it different? What kind of resources will it bring to the community?
Sure. About 15 years ago, Chief Pache started a project in conjunction with the Penske Corporation, got us a used beverage truck, and that truck was retrofitted to become a heavy rescue. It already had high miles on it. It was an older truck, but we made it into an apparatus that would fit our needs and help the needs of all of Oakway. It has a mobile air unit on it that helps us fill SCBA bottles on fires. It has big, huge aero board on it for traffic control on car accidents. It has a huge light tower on it to provide lighting at fire scenes. It has a lot of specialized equipment for technical rescue, which is hazardous technical rescue, which is confined space, trench rescue, building collapse, and things like that. And then it also has all the hazmat equipment on it also. So this truck was very heavy, and it was almost to the point where it was overloaded. And through the efforts of Treasurer Keeps and State Representative Vanugian, we were able to procure a good chunk of that money through the state of Michigan, over half the truck to replace it. So I'm happy to say right now that truck is in the process of being replaced. With everything that's going on with supply chain issues and orders, busy time for them, it's going to take over 2 years to finish. Hopefully we'll have it by this time next year. It's looking like December of this year is when we'll receive it. And it's going to be a new state-of-the-art truck that'll house all that equipment for the next 30 years.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I think we should have a party. Celebrate. So is there anything else that you'd like to talk about today, John?
No. If anybody
Well,
has
I think you
questions,
answered a lot of my questions.
Good.
And, you know, I didn't come from government, so every time I talk to you, I learn something new about what we do and the way we're able to service the community and how everything works. So I hopefully our viewers feel the same and they learned something today. So thank you for your
Carrie.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining Coffee with Carrie, and we look forward to seeing you next time. And thanks for watching.